hearing about, no matter where they go, is Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's using Twitter. Now, businesses are flocking to this tool. They're using it for customer service purposes and kind of maintaining their current clients. But you both maintain that this is an actual selling tool, that anyone can use this to sell. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that? I know you believe that this is a great prospecting tool.
It's a powerful, powerful prospecting tool because Twitter is a real-time conversation of millions of people. Now, as we mentioned before, sometimes they're talking about, hey, I just bought a hamburger, or I ran to the store. But for the most part, people are actually having legitimate conversations. Lots of businesses is engaged, as you mentioned, customer service. United Airlines, Popeye's Chicken, Zappos. Everybody is on there, and so they're having conversations with their customers. But what also is happening is people are having conversations about the pain they're experiencing with the products that they use, with the services that they use. And so anybody who is watching these streams and getting involved and understand how to use the search portion of it are able to go out and find people who are in pain right now who want the products and services you have. It's one of the most powerful prospecting tools you can use that way. It's also great for prospecting because you can find people who could be using your products or services and develop the conversation with them. You enter a conversation with them, they get to know you in an informal sort of setting, and then as time goes by, they get to understand your brand and what you do.
I know people also have different trends, or they're called hashtags, where they say, this little conversation that I have belongs in this category. You also can find people in a category relative to your industry, but you also talk about finding influencers and using them to actually build your base.
I think different than LinkedIn, where you have to invite someone to join your network, which is, it's kind of a friendly thing to do. Twitter is easier to connect with people. People expect you to follow them. So you don't have to feel funny about inviting. It's not an invite, it's just follow, which is a much easier thing to do. So what you can do is you can find influencers, you can find your customers, your potential customers, and you can follow them on Twitter. And people want to build bigger followings, so they want you to do this. Now, once you're following them, you can start to build a relationship. And building a relationship entails mostly forwarding them links of articles that might be of interest to them. Now, it could be a review on a product that they're working on, that there was some press coverage and it got a great review, and you want to forward them that article. Or maybe it's industry trends that shows that employment is increasing, or this sector of the economy is increasing, and that could benefit their product or service. And that's how you start to build relationships on Twitter. And as you build a relationship, then it certainly makes the sales process go much faster as well.
That's interesting when you talk about it as a relationship tool. I'm just racking my brain here. When I used to go and do all those different sales, and I most of the time when I try to build that relationship, I just call these people up and say, well, is now time to buy?
Right.
So Twitter just seems like a better way to do that, where you can just send them things that are pertinent to them, not necessarily selling to them.
Right, exactly. And so that's really the trick, is that you have an ongoing conversation. Because if I just walked up to you every day and when I saw you and said, hey Chris, buy my thing, hey Chris, buy my thing, hey Chris, buy my thing, eventually you're going to say, don't come around. You probably would, right? Yeah, exactly. Just to say, please never come around again. But that's sort of the approach that a lot of people take, or they just dial for dollars and hope something comes up. But when you start having these conversations, what you get to know is you get to know the person a little bit, because they are sharing personal things too. That it's good to know that they love the In-N-Out, right? And that's where they want to go get their hamburger, because that's powerful information for a relationship building tool for salespeople. So you want to search their Twitter streams and see what it is they're talking about. You want to engage and enter the conversations where it's important, where you can talk about your product sometimes, where you can just talk about your shared interests. Because remember, this is all about building a relationship, not about just building a business relationship. The more that the more Dave and I have in common, the more you and I have in common, the more likely we are to say, let's do something together. I really like how you are. Let's figure it out.
And I think the real bottom line is people like to buy from other people that they know, they like, their trust. And if you're a buyer and you have two different sources of a product or service, you're certainly going to tend to get it from the person that you've got a relationship with already.
Absolutely.
And Twitter really helps you establish that quickly.
So we have all these tweeple that we've found. We've found their pain points.
Right.
We've been able to engage in these conversations, so we're building that relationship. So we know it's a prospecting tool, a relationship management tool, but it's also a selling tool. How do you sell product on Twitter? You said you don't say, will you buy my thing? So how do you sell?
Well, you can say, here's something that will serve you. And that's the direct selling portion of Twitter comes after the relationship's done.
Okay.
You don't just shoot out a bunch of information saying, buy my thing all the time. What you do is you develop relationships. And when you know people are in a place where they want or are looking for the product, that's a great time to do it. Then you can send out links and say, listen, here's something you may want to consider. Or we have this solution. Check it out. Then you can send out links that are trackable so that you know exactly. You can use things like Bud URL, Tiny URL. There's a bunch of different little tools like that you can use that let you see, is the link being opened, how many people have viewed it, all those kind of things. You can use su.pr, which is a great one, because then you can see how many times it's been retweeted, how many other people have sent it along. You can see all of these kind of things that allow you to really start saying, okay, this is what they need now, or this has been seen this many times, we should do this next. So using direct solicitation with Twitter is fine, but only after you develop the relationship, and not all. Again, once you start, you don't just hound them and hound them and hound them. Again, the rule that I use is a 60-40 rule, basically. About 60% of the information I give is more topical, general kind of stuff, and about 40% selling information.
Okay.
I think another thing is kind of the indirect selling, is you're building a relationship with the community on Twitter, or a set of individuals. Again, you have to have your profile set up right on Twitter. And of course, part of your profile is it has your company's website, so that they are directed to see what you're about, go see your company, etc., and do a nice, concise description in one paragraph about what you're about, what your interests are, etc. Is that also helps to build a relationship.
And ideally, if you do this right, they'll simply ask you, right? Because if you've been having the conversation, if you've been talking to them, then they'll just ask you. They'll say, do you guys have a solution for this? Or can you help me figure this out? And at that moment, that's the best possible situation to be in.
Well, salespeople love word of mouth. That's one of the best ways to drive business, and it sounds like Twitter is this digital word of mouth. These conversations are going around and spreading virally that way.
Even better than word of mouth, it's digital eavesdropping and digital voyeurism, because everybody who's in your stream can see what you're talking about and what everybody else is talking about. So they have this, and then with the hashtags where people put a pound sign in front of a word or something, then you can just click on that and you'll see all the conversations related to that. So you're able to look and parse and use information, and then once you start developing this, you have a great opportunity. So I think the important thing for people is to do one thing with Twitter today, and that's simply go to Twitter, click on the search button. If you're a local business, click on advanced search and search within 50 miles of your business if you're a brick and mortar business or whatever. If you're not, if you sell nationally or internationally, just leave it alone. Go right there and search for some of the pain points. So let's just say that if I was selling my book, How to Sell When Nobody's Buying, I might search for people who are talking about sales training, people who are talking about lack of sales, people who are talking about sales books. All of those kinds of things. I'd search on search.twitter.com. And remember, this is the largest community of active conversations in the nation right now. People are talking about this. So I literally, if I were to type some of those terms in right now, I would see conversations that had just happened seconds ago. And so that's the best time to enter the conversation. Hey, it's Dave Lacani. Sounds like you guys are talking about this. Tell me more.
And you could, of course, follow those people as well.
Follow them, and then what we'll talk about in another episode here is exactly how to take those people, pull them out of there into leads machines so that you can turn them into sales leads.
Now, one of the things I think we just need to get across real quick is this isn't some new hypothetical strategy. People are making money doing this. I know there's some examples.
Let me give you a couple of examples. I have a client right now that's a small four restaurant chain in Boise, Idaho, that's using Twitter right now to find new people. And every day we get people who are now tweeting saying, hey, I just went in and I had this fresh Mexican food, or hey, I just are you guys open? Do you deliver? Could you do catering? They're starting to have a conversation, and the moment that conversation erupts with your customers is the moment that you then control the marketplace again. But right now, it's not happening for many people. But so let me give you the example of How to Sell When Nobody's Buying. We sold this book out in under 8 hours, online and in bookstores across North America the day that it released. And we did that with about 50% of the sales coming through social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. So this is a powerful tool that works, because the people who have a relationship with you are much more likely to pony up and say yes when you ask them to do something.
So go sign up for Twitter, find industry experts. You guys are all salespeople. Here's 2 of them. Your Twitter handle, I'll have up on the screen here, is Dave Lacani.
Dave Lacani, DaveLakhani.
And we got David Anderson, your D.E.
Anderson, yep. And would look forward to having you follow me.
So go on there, look through who they're following, and start selling on Twitter today.
Yep.